said, it was like, we're gonna not stay the whole time for this.
You're gonna make her cry. Tell her something different. Can't be that.
Nothing wrong with
Go sit over there.
Is it?
Tell her about your class. What do you say about your class?
Thank you.
Fitness, library,
Volunteers.
She knows some of my class. Fine.
What did you do?
Didn't make it worse.
You have to tell Miss Schramm especially. What did we end up doing on a Friday night that you were so excited to show me on the whiteboard? But in particular, it was really cool that they did on a Friday night.
Oh, good. You don't know. Can I speak? All of that. I'm concerned about like going fair. No, it's perfect. Whatever those games are. All I have to do is avoid losing this. This is I had to remind the twins that we were tired.
Okay, so if everybody wants to find a seat, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Julia Berg. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Director of Education here at the Foss Waterway Seaport. We want to welcome you all today. I'd like to introduce Natalie Sanderson, who's going to begin with a land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Puyallup tribe. The Puyallup people have lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step toward the true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land and beyond.
So, everybody, there's a few people that are going to say some things today, and there's going to be a little program, but instead of saying a lot about why we're here today, I'm going to just read you the email that we got that started this whole event. It was from Natalie on August 22nd. It says, "Hello, my name is Natalie Sanderson. I am 13 years old, and I was wondering if I could schedule an event. For the past few years, I've been researching, advocating, and doing projects for the Southern residents. Last summer, I heard about Tokitae, an orca who was taken from the L Pod. I learned about Friends of Toki organization, an organization partnering with the Miami Seaquarium to bring her home. I emailed the Orca Network asking how I can help, and they told me to wait and spread the word, and they would keep me updated. I started writing my novel about her life. I got 15 chapters in. I started sending it out, editing. We took a trip to the Langley Whale Center. They told me that they were excited to hear about the club, my book, my other projects. They said that next year we might be celebrating her return home. 2 days later, last Friday, she died. It's not fair. She should have been moved home when the Friends of Toki movement started 20 years ago. But I'm glad it didn't happen after she came home, because then people would blame it on the move and other marine mammals wouldn't be freed. I was so excited for her future, and even though I didn't know her and have only known her for a little over a year, I still felt close to her. I know it sounds dramatic, but it really feels like I'm losing a friend and not just an orca. I heard that as she died, all 3 pods, plus some transients, gathered around the islands. When we were talking to the people from Whidbey Island, they said that they haven't seen any southern resident killer whale sightings all summer. It was also the first superpod for a few years, and it was so rare that the residents and transients gathered like they did. It was almost like they were welcoming her home. Today I was thinking, I know something that would help me and others a lot, is holding a memorial for her. I know that there are more memorials going on in Miami and at Whidbey Island. I think we should do one here too. There are people everywhere who are grieving her loss. I've been talking with people from the Orca Network, and we are partnering to hold the memorial. We're trying to find a place to hold the event. I was wondering if you would be willing to donate your space for a few hours so we can hold the memorial for Tokitae. I would appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Natalie." So, yeah. So I just want to say thank you to Natalie and everyone who has supported her to bring us together today. And with that, I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you for coming. My name is Natalie Sanderson. I would like to express my gratitude to the Orca Network for all the support and the Foss Waterway Seaport for sponsoring our event. Sometimes we feel like all hope is lost. Tokitae gave us something to hope for. Now that she's gone, does that mean we should give up on hope? Her story is truly heartbreaking. She was deprived of what it meant to be a southern resident orca. Her family, her home, her freedom. However, her story impacted countless lives. Her story was one of endurance and hope. I first heard about Tokitae just over a year ago. Instantly, I felt a connection to her. Her story was simply unjust. It made me mad knowing that this tragedy was forced upon Tokitae and the southern resident orcas. It is inspiring to hear about the tireless efforts made by both organizations and individuals to bring her home. I look up to the community of people who have cared so much about her happiness. With the shared ambition to bring her home, they have been role models for me and so many others. I can't imagine how they must feel after dedicating so much of their lives to Tokitae. Personally, when I first started learning about her, the phrase, "Don't let her die alone," stuck in my head. But in the end, I don't think she did. Yes, her living conditions were horrible, and it is unfair that she was deprived of her family in the first place. However, countless people loved her, and she has inspired countless more. That's why holding this memorial was so important to me. There are people grieving her loss everywhere, and not everyone is able to make it to memorials in other places. We need a space to grieve and a way to honor her. Even though the outcome was not the way any of us wanted, her soul has returned to her family. On the day that she died, all 3 pods gathered in the same area, possibly to welcome her spirit home. So, no, I don't think all hope is lost. Now, we need to take her story as inspiration. We need to come together, like the Salish Sea orcas did, and we need to stop the plight of the southern residents and protect our ecosystem as a whole. Don't let her death be in vain. We need to do it for Tokitae, because hers is a story of hope. All right, now we're going to hear from... Now we're going to hear from Cindy Hansen from the Orca Network to hear a little bit more about her life.
All right, thank you everybody so much for coming. Thank you, Natalie, for doing this. I met Natalie kind of remotely via email about a year ago and have been chatting with her a little bit over the past year about some of the wonderful things that she's been doing. And so when she reached out to me and said that she wanted to do something for Tokitae, I of course jumped at that, and she asked if anybody would be willing to help her. So very, very happy to be here to help her with this, and she's just done an incredible job putting this all together. So thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you to Foss Waterway for sponsoring this event for us. So what I wanted to do is just tell you a little bit about Tokitae and who she was. Some of you may know a lot about her. You may know her entire story. Some of you may not. So I just kind of want to do a brief story of her life and just tell you a little bit about who she was. So first and foremost, Tokitae was a southern resident orca. And what that means is she came from a very, very special population of orcas. Very unique, a group that is genetically distinct, has very unique culture, very unique language, customs, so different from all other orcas. And these orcas stay together for life. Their family bonds are incredibly strong. And so she would have been with them for her entire life. So even when she was in Miami Seaquarium all those years, she was still a southern resident orca. And that's something really important to remember. So she was born somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, somewhere in Puget Sound or the Salish Sea or out off the coast of Oregon or Washington or British Columbia, somewhere in this area, somewhere around 1966 or so. And I love this graphic. This is from a friend of ours, Sarah Haisong Shimazu, and this shows Tokitae with her family, the way she should have been for the last 50 years. So she was born somewhere around 1966. She stayed with her family till she was about 4 years old, and that's when everything changed. So she was captured from Penn Cove off Whidbey Island in 1970. So August 8th, 1970, that was the day her life changed forever. And these captures had been taking place for about 5 or 6 years before then, and so these orcas had been through this before, but this was kind of an infamous one. And during this capture, some young orcas died during the capture, and 7, including Tokitae, were taken from their families and went to live the rest of their lives in captivity. So Tokitae went to Miami Seaquarium, and she was there for the next 53 years. So she was swimming in this tiny little tank, watching her family up on the big screen. For the first 10 years, she actually wasn't alone. She did have some dolphins that were with her throughout her life, but for the first 10 years at Miami Seaquarium, she actually was with another orca. So his name was Hugo, and he was also a southern resident. And they spent 10 years together in this tank, but Hugo started to become very stressed, and he started to kind of bang his head against the side of the tank, and he eventually died 10 years after Tokitae got there. So from that point on, she was alone with no other orcas for 43 years. So this is the tank that she lived in for 53 years. She was 22 feet long. The tank itself was only 80 feet long. So it was very, very small, the smallest orca tank in the country. And she was there for 53 years. But what's amazing is she still remained strong and resilient and gentle. She had a very gentle spirit about her. So even through all of that, she didn't lose that for all of those years. So over the years, people had tried to bring Tokitae home, bring her back home to a sea pen and retire her. And the thought of bringing her back home to a sea pen is actually not a new one. This started decades ago with Ken Balcom from the Center for Whale Research and his brother Howard Garrett from Orca Network. Howard and Susan Berta, who are the co-founders of Orca Network, they started the Retire Lolita campaign that's been going on for decades. And for many, many years, there's been an event that took place at Penn Cove where she was captured right around August 8th every year to commemorate her capture. And there have been books written, the two that you see here, Puget Sound Whales for Sale and a Puget Sound Orca in Captivity. Those were written by our good friend Sandra Pollard, basically chronicling the captures and Toki's life and all of the efforts to try to return her home. So this has been going on for decades, where people really wanted her to come home. And in addition to all of the individuals and the organizations doing outreach and calling for her return home, there was also a lot of music written about her, and you got to see some of those music videos earlier today. So just a huge group of people really committed to trying to bring her home. In addition, a lot of the tribes started to get involved as well, particularly the Lummi tribe. But the Coast Salish people have a very, very strong relationship with the orcas. They consider them family. And the picture in the center there, that is Rosie, Caillou, James, and Bill Bailey. They are Coast Salish elders. They've been involved in this effort for a very long time. Rosie and her father actually witnessed the capture where Tokitae was taken. And her father had sworn for years that he was going to continue trying to bring her home. And then Rosie has continued that after he passed. And she is actually doing a series of ceremonies to honor Tokitae. So the first one will actually be tomorrow at Penn Cove, where she was captured, and then she'll do a series of them throughout the region as well. And then, as many of you know, the Lummi Nation have become very much involved in this. They consider her their relative, and they really started to call for her to be able to come home to a sea pen. So they created the Toki totem. That's the picture that you see on the right. They actually traveled cross country with that all the way to the Miami Seaquarium and did a lot of outreach and education about her along the way. So a lot of things happening. Things really started to build in terms of the pressure to be able to bring her home. There was a nonprofit that formed called Friends of Toki, and that was made up of an amazing group of philanthropists, a Lummi elder, veterinarians, trainers, advocates, scientists, environmentalists, all coming together for this same goal, to try to bring Toki back to a sea pen. So things really started to change when the Miami Seaquarium sold to the Dolphin Company in 2022. And then on March 30th, 2023, this historic announcement was made where the owner of the Dolphin Company, Eduardo Albor, actually announced that he was willing to allow Tokitae to come home. He was going into partnership with Friends of Toki, and they were going to work together to bring her home. So this was earth-shattering announcement that this was actually going to happen. So it was big news. A lot of people jumped on this, and a lot of news stories coming out. There was a lot of work that was going on behind the scenes for the months after that, working on plans to build a sea pen for her. We don't know exactly where that was going to be, but they were certainly working on that behind the scenes. The other thing they had to do was get permits, both federal and Washington state permits. So they were working on those as well. And things were coming along. We were getting fairly close. But then, of course, you know the end of the story here, which we hope isn't going to be the end of the story. There's still more to tell. But on August 18th, 2023, Tokitae died. She had been sick for a couple of days, and her health really declined rapidly, and then she passed away. So the Lummi Nation did do a celebration of life for her on San Juan Island, and they will actually be getting her ashes to spread in the Salish Sea. And we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. We're waiting for an announcement on that. But as soon as we find out, we will definitely make that announcement and post it so people will know that it's happening. but a lot of different ceremonies going on all over. Like I said, Rosie and Bill, the Coast Salish elders, are going to be doing a number of salmon ceremonies in her honor. But that's why we're also very, very happy that Natalie wanted to do this here, because there wasn't anything going on in South Sound that we knew of. So really grateful to Natalie for doing this, and grateful to all of you for being here and for caring about her. So back to the original question, who was Tokitae? Well, she was all of these things. Again, amazing that she lived 53 years in this tank and still was courageous and gentle and friendly and playful. She was incredibly intelligent. She was all of these things. But one of the things that we always remember about her is she was amazing at bringing people together. So many friendships were formed just because of Tokitae. And if you think about it, the group that formed to bring her home, you've got a philanthropist, you've got the owner of an NFL team, the owner of the Indiana Colts was actually going to pay for everything to bring her home. You've got the owner of the Seaquarium, environmentalists, activists, scientists, Coast Salish elders, all of these people coming together to try to work towards a common goal. So that's pretty incredible that she was able to bring together this amazing group of people. And that was just one of the things she was so great at. So that's what we want to remember, and that's what we want to continue forward. So in Toki's legacy, what we want to do is we want to take all of that energy and continue working toward her family. As you probably know, the southern resident orcas, Toki's family, are really struggling. They are endangered, partly because of the captures that took place. They never really recovered from that. We kind of lost an entire generation. And so now they still have all of these other issues that are going on, mostly with lack of salmon and contaminants in the water. So we really need to come together. We want everybody to continue working together the way that Toki brought everybody together, so that we can put all that energy towards her family in her legacy. So thank you all so very much for coming today. We really appreciate it. So what we want to do, we will be doing a little ceremony out at the water. We do have a beautiful float that one of our volunteers, Jan Bell, made for us. We'll put that in the water. And then we also have a lot of cedar that all of you can take and put in the water. Cedar is really important for the Coast Salish people, and they use it in a lot of their ceremonies. So we wanted to carry that forward, and if anybody wants to put cedar in the water, you're welcome to do that. But before we go out there, we wanted to see, does anybody have anything you would like to say about Toki? Everybody's probably a little shy and emotional, but if anybody wants to come up and say anything, you're more than welcome to. Yeah. Okay. Yes, absolutely. So the question was to sing a water blessing song when we go out to put the float into the water. And absolutely, we can do that. Can I get your name? Oh, Valerie. So Valerie said that she actually came from Florida specifically for this event because she was not able to get to the memorial in Miami the day after Toki died. And she didn't know if she was going to be able to get here because it's expensive to fly out here from Miami, but she thought about Toki and thought about everything she went through and thought, you know, if she can do that, you can get to Seattle, right? So she's here, and she's hopefully you're glad you're here. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Valerie. Does anybody else have anything you would like to say? All right, so what we'll do, let's give everybody maybe like 10 minutes for those who may have just come in. Take a look at the display back there with Toki. Feel free to write a message on a San Juan Island rock and take it home with you. We also have some pledge cards back there where you can write a pledge to help the Southern residents. So we'll kind of give everybody 10 minutes to do that, and then what we'll do is we're going to walk out on the dock, but for people who may not want to walk out on the dock, you can just come right out on the dock here, and we'll just kind of gather wherever everybody wants to be, and we'll do a little ceremony out of the water. And if anybody wants to say anything out there not on the microphone, you're welcome to do that as well. Thank you.
I live in Lakewood, but I'm willing to drive.
One quick announcement before we do gather to go outside is we have someone here who would really love to go to the Whidbey Island ceremony tomorrow, and her rideshare kind of canceled, and so she's looking for a rideshare to get up to Whidbey Island. So if anybody is planning to go, could you please let us know? Thank you.